Bad Bunny just had one of the most controversial Super Bowl halftime shows ever, at least politically speaking, with his performance being the first halftime show to be done entirely in Spanish and becoming the most viewed performance of all time. After years of protest against ICE and the Trump administration, to the point where the right hosted an alternate all-American halftime show with Kid Rock to push back against Bad Bunny in the NFL, Bad Bunny did something very unexpected and had a performance jam-packed full of subliminal messages that I want to break down today. And to understand why this halftime show was both so controversial and important, we have to know a little bit more about who Bad Bunny is and why this is so politically charged. Bad Bunny is a massive artist who's recently been compared to the likes of Latin America's Drake, and some even go as far as to say that he's bigger than Drake already. He's from Puerto Rico, which is important, and it's also important to remember that Puerto Rico is a US territory and has been since 1898. This brings us to the focal point of what makes Bad Bunny being announced as the 2026 Super Bowl headliner so controversial. In September of 2025, it was announced that Bad Bunny, a Puerto Rican singer and rapper, was set to perform for the halftime show. As we discussed his impressive accolades and worldwide appeal, Bad Bunny performing at the Super Bowl makes sense. Even despite not making music in English, I think it's still fair to say you can enjoy a song even if you don't understand it, like we've seen with Despacito or Gangnam Style being huge hits in the US. As part of the announcement, Bad Bunny said, "What I'm feeling goes beyond myself. It's for those who came before me and ran countless yards so I could come in and score a touchdown. This is for my people, my culture, and our history." Ironically, this was a bit of foreshadowing. This is where things get political, in large part because Bad Bunny performs almost entirely in Spanish, and he's been a loud and frequent critic of the Trump administration. In a tour announced by Bad Bunny, he has no planned stops in the continental US. In interviews, he's explained the choice, saying that the decision was due to fears that his fans could be targeted by Trump's mass deportation push. And after the Super Bowl announcement, he alluded to the move on Twitter, saying, "I've been thinking about it these days, and after discussing it with my team, I think I'll just do one day in the United States." And he's been fairly critical of the United States before. Back in 2017, he criticized the lack of humanitarian aid in the wake of Hurricane Maria, which devastated Puerto Rico. During a benefit concert for hurricane relief, Bad Bunny wore a shirt criticizing Trump with the message, "Eres tuitero o presidente," which translates to, "Are you a Twitter user or a president?"
Muéstranos tu t-shirt, please.
Teacher.
Tell us about this t-shirt.
La camisa habla.
La camisa habla.
Yeah, es una pregunta para el pana. Va a tener que buscar un puertorriqueño o un mexicano que se la traduzca porque no creo que sepa español.
And his passion hasn't only been directed towards larger US politics either. In 2019, Bad Bunny took to the streets alongside other artists such as Ricky Martin and more than 500,000 Puerto Ricans. This was in protest of government corruption and demanding the resignation of their current governor. In 2022, one of his music videos criticized Puerto Rican utility deficiencies, gentrification in San Juan, and land and beach privatization, something which he would do again in his performance. And all of these themes are under the colonialism umbrella, which Bad Bunny often addresses both in his music and in his activism. Fast forward to the 2024 US presidential election, and Bad Bunny posted a bunch of clips of Kamala Harris criticizing Trump, especially after the comedian Tony Hinchcliffe made a joke about Puerto Rico at the Trump rally, which took place at Madison Square Garden.
You know, there's a lot going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico.
Alongside all of this, Bad Bunny is also known for his LGBTQ+ advocacy. In 2020, he appeared as the musical guest on Jimmy Fallon and brought attention to the killing of Alexa Luciano, a transgender woman from Puerto Rico. He wore a black skirt and a white shirt with the words, "They killed Alexa, not a man in a skirt." That same year, Bad Bunny kept up with his LGBTQ+ activism when he performed in drag for another music video. On top of these kind of things, other public moments have pissed some people off as well, like at a Yankee game when he and some friends didn't stand during the performance of God Bless America. All of this resulted in what might be one of the most controversial halftime show performance picks of all time, which even resulted in President Trump chiming in about the halftime show decision.
I never heard of him. I don't know who he is. I don't know why they're doing it. It's like crazy. And then they blame it on some promoter that they hired to pick up entertainment. I think it's absolutely ridiculous.
And a lot of other Republican politicians mirrored this ideal as well, claiming to not know who Bad Bunny was or saying that it was a bad decision. But one of the main topics is ICE, a United States government apparatus that Bad Bunny has been very critical of. The United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE for short, is a federal law enforcement agency under the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. Its self-stated mission is to protect America through criminal investigations and enforcing immigration laws to preserve national security and public safety. But lately, a lot of citizens don't feel like this is the case. Well, during Obama's administration, ICE was prioritized to go after people charged with serious crimes, or at least they were supposed to. The narrative seemed to fully shift with the Trump administration, directing the agency to target anybody it believed had entered the United States illegally. With this came some more high-profile raids at places of employment, places of worship, and places of education, which caused major protest and even arrests of US citizens. And this was just during Trump's first term. Things have ramped up quite a bit since then, with ICE receiving record funding from the Big Beautiful Bill. Beginning in December 2025, ICE began Operation Metro Surge in Minnesota, which was characterized by local police and journalists as a severe escalation of ICE tactics. As a result came some of the biggest anti-ICE protests the US has ever seen, which led to headline after headline. Then on January 7th, 2026, an ICE officer shot and killed 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good during an incident in Minneapolis, Minnesota. If the ICE situation was tense before, it was now red hot. Protests exploded across the city and nation overall, with a massive amount of people displaying frustration with the agency's actions. By this point, polls showed that a majority of Americans thought as a whole, ICE as an agency had gone too far. Then on January 24th, 2026, ICU nurse Alex Preddy was pepper sprayed, restrained, shot, and killed again by DHS agents. This was allegedly after he attempted to protect a woman who had been shoved to the ground by federal agents. Remember how I said things were already red hot after Renee? Well, whatever gets even crazier than that is what the situation evolved into. So the stakes were very high for Bad Bunny, an artist who has been very critical of this organization. And Bad Bunny had a lot of pushback from the United States government. Corey Lewandowski, a senior advisor at the Department of Homeland Security, claimed that ICE agents will be at Bad Bunny's halftime show.
Benny, there is nowhere that you can provide safe haven to people who are in this country illegally, not the Super Bowl and nowhere else. We will find you, we will apprehend you, we will put you in a detention facility, and we will deport you. So know that that is a very real situation under this administration, which is completely contrary to how it used to be.
And again, the claim that ICE would be in attendance was echoed by other Homeland Security officials following the initial statement. While many adversaries of Bad Bunny claim an American should be headlining, a lot of proponents had continued to point out that Puerto Rico is in fact part of America. And Bad Bunny eventually addressed everything in his SNL monologue, saying he's still happy to be performing and that he believes most people are as well, especially emphasizing how proud he is to represent his Latin culture. When asked why the NFL chose Bad Bunny during a press conference, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell answered, "He's one of the leading and most popular entertainers in the world. That's what we try to achieve. It's an important stage for us. It's an important element to the entertainment value. It's carefully thought through." He also added on that despite the backlash, he has no plans of canceling the performance, since the move was made to attract younger audiences. And he also pointed out that he's not sure they've ever selected an artist and received zero criticism. In response to all of this, Turning Point USA, which was founded by Charlie Kirk and is now owned by his wife, Erica Kirk, announced that they would have their own alternate halftime show, which we'll talk about a little bit more later. A week before his performance, Bad Bunny had the first Spanish language album of the year win at the Grammys. He said in his acceptance speech, "I want to dedicate this award to all the people that had to leave their homeland, their country, to follow their dreams." He also said, "Before I say thanks to God, I'm gonna say ice out. We're not savage, we're not animals, we're not aliens. We are humans and we are Americans." After all of this buildup, I'm sure you guys can see why his halftime show performance was so important and was bound to be so controversial. But Bad Bunny did something that was, in my opinion, very unexpected. Rather than making a huge, overtly political performance, protesting against Trump or ICE, Bad Bunny chose to celebrate his culture and unity, with a lot of subliminal messages packed in his performance. From a bird's eye view, Bad Bunny was taking a walk through various parts of Puerto Rican and Latin American culture, which honestly kind of reminded me of Lil Wayne's "A Milli" music video. Regardless though, the set was meant to resemble the sugarcane fields in Puerto Rico, and funnily enough, the green set was actually just a bunch of people. One person on Reddit said, "This calls out Puerto Rico's slave history and being exploited for its resources and labor. America invaded Puerto Rico in 1898 and devalued their currency. appropriated the land, turned large agricultural areas to grow sugarcane. This resulted in lots of poverty across Puerto Rico. He played a snippet of Daddy Yankee's Gasolina and said, "You're listening to music from Puerto Rico, the barrios, and the projects." By the way, sorry guys, I just can't roll my R's. I don't know what's wrong with my tongue, but just I'm going to disappoint you in this video. I want you to know that. He also handed his Grammy to a young boy who many people actually mistook for Liam Ramos, a young boy who was detained by ICE, but it was actually a child actor named Lincoln Fox. He did a bunch of cool cultural things throughout the whole performance, like inviting Toñita, who is the 85-year-old owner of Caribbean Social Club in New York, a popular and last of its kind establishment because of gentrification. Some people were saying stuff like the taco stand being called Villa's Tacos represents Pancho Villa, who was the only person who invaded the US. It's also the name of a taco shop, so who knows, maybe it's both meanings, I don't know. In regards to the food stands in general though, another Redditor said, "Poverty is a big topic of conversation here. The coconut stand, nail salon stand, and taco stand emphasize how Puerto Ricans, and in general how in Latin America, you have to hustle and get creative to get by. It's very common for people there to open food stands to feed their families. Very common to walk around the block in these countries and bump into so many small businesses. Also, it's why boxing appears as well, since boxing is commonly known as a way out of poverty, especially in Mexico." There was also a couple that got engaged and then married during the performance, with Lady Gaga singing at the wedding. And apparently the wedding was real too. Others suggested that Lady Gaga performing at the end of the wedding bit was critiquing American tradition of inviting Latino artists to sing at weddings as if they were just entertainers. He also had a bunch of other celebrities out there like Cardi B, Jessica Alba, Pedro Pascal, and many more. But Bad Bunny also included some more political messaging aside from just the showcasing of culture. At one part, Ricky Martin, one of the biggest Latin music artists ever, who is also from Puerto Rico, sang a Bad Bunny song called What Happened to Hawaii. He sang the chorus, which reads, "They want to take away my river and the beach too. They want my neighborhood and for grandma to leave, because I don't want them to do to you what happened to Hawaii." This song is very obviously about US colonialism, and if you guys don't know how the US acquired Hawaii, it was very sneaky, kind of like, hey, let's just put a military base here real quick. We're still friends, we're still just allies. But let us put one more here. World War II happens, boom. Martial law, and then they took it over. Then right after this, a bunch of power lines blew up with people falling off to illustrate power outages, since they happened a lot on the island. And this is actually a really big problem in Puerto Rico, with one person on Reddit saying, "Storms and poor electrical infrastructure are a constant issue on all US territories. Longest I personally went without power was 2.5 months on the island I lived on. Many blame the poor electric grids on the United States for not giving them enough money or resources or attention to help out." Following this, he comes out of the field with the Puerto Rican flag, but this flag had the light blue triangle, which is usually used to symbolize Puerto Rico's sovereignty and political independence, which contrasts with other versions of the flag that use darker shades of blue for the triangle, which is supposed to represent Puerto Rico's status as a US territory instead. This is kind of crazy, but the OG flag was actually banned for a decade in 1948, along with anything remotely related to Puerto Rican independence. So there's actually a lot of meaning behind this light blue flag. At the end of the performance, Bad Bunny spoke in English the only time in his performance, saying, "God bless America." Then he listed 20 nations within the Americas displaying their flags, including the US and Puerto Rico. He spiked a football that read "Together We Are America," with a message on the screen in the background that said, "The only thing more powerful than hate is love." I didn't mention every single thing he did, but I'm sure you guys get the gist of it. This performance was jam-packed with meaning, yet seemed to be done so in a way that wasn't expected. Following all of the heat that he got from the ICE discourse, the US government, the people that were mad for him performing, and even the president himself. Speaking of which, Trump promptly responded to the performance saying, "The Super Bowl halftime show is absolutely terrible, one of the worst ever. It makes no sense, is an affront to the greatness of America, and doesn't represent our standards of success, creativity, or excellence." But do you know who does represent all of these things? Kid Rock. I'm kidding, but we'll get there. Trump continued saying, "Nobody understands a word this guy is saying, and the dancing is disgusting, especially for young children that are watching from throughout the USA and all over the world. This show is just a slap in the face to our country, which is setting new standards and records every single day." He yaps a little more and mentions the kickoff rule again, which is really funny. Regardless, while Bad Bunny was doing his performance, Turning Point USA had their alternate All-American halftime show, which I just have to mention real quick. It was headlined by Kid Rock alongside Brantley Gilbert, Lee Brice, and Gabby Barrett, who are all country artists. This event even had Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and other US officials supporting it. And I think it's safe to say, politics aside, it was just pretty bad. I tuned in out of curiosity while this guy was performing, and it honestly felt like a parody.
Be somebody, make a name for yourself. Life's hard to go through hell, and there comes a time when you gotta slow down. That's what we doing now.
It made me think of this Family Guy clip.
Gone really wrong, like that Kid Rock concert.
Oh my God! Help! He's having a heart attack! Is anyone here a doctor?
No fucking way someone's a doctor here.
Then people started pointing out that the audio was out of sync on the stream, which led to theories that it wasn't even live, which has been further supported in the media. And then people also started theorizing that tpusa botted the stream.
Yo, is the chat frozen? I don't get it. Live chat, it's not loading it.
I just wanna catch my fish, drive my truck, drink my beer.
Guys,
not wake up to all this
hello?
stuff I don't wanna hear.
Hello?
Same kind of gun I hunt with, just kill.
Even fellow conservatives like Milo, however you say it, and Candace Owens were claiming that it was botted. And even if it wasn't botted, it was just pretty lame, trying to make people super mad over something that really isn't a big deal. I think someone performing in Spanish for the Super Bowl isn't serious at all. It's not a big deal, especially when you look at it under the context of the NFL trying to grow their audience and compete with people like FIFA. Rather than just maintaining their position as the top American sport, I think they're trying to go more global, which would in turn make sense why they have other artists performing in other languages or other artists that have fan base elsewhere in the world performing during the halftime show. I mean, you even ended up having Nick Fuentes saying, "There is just nothing inspiring or attractive about what the white right has to offer in its current form." Kid Rock again? Ugh. The California governor, Gavin Newsom, was tweeting out Craigslist job listings looking for actors allegedly for the Kid Rock concert, asking people to cheer and clap throughout the show, just as you would at a real concert. I have no clue if this is real, but if it was, it would be pretty funny. Regardless, Bad Bunny had a very controversial, impactful, and meaningful performance that a lot of people may have missed, but it will probably go down as one of the most heavily contested Super Bowl performances of all time. But there are others that have been very controversial as well, like last year's performance from Kendrick Lamar. So to learn more about that and other controversial performances, make sure to click the video that's on screen right now.